Welcome, everyone, to the Presentation Hell podcast. On this episode, we have Tom Jacobs, the sales coach and founder of the Jackobs Effect. Welcome, Tom. Good to have you here.
Hey, nice to be here, James. Thanks for having me.
Great. When I see something like someone's name with an effect next to it, the Tom Jacobs Effect, what is the effect we're going to get here? And we're about to have a conversation. Tell me.
I don't even really use that company name anymore, but I got it from the I think it was a TV show, the Cabanero Effect, the magician that would do that. So I was like, well, I'm kind of a magician when it comes to helping people with their sales, so let's just call it Jacobs Effect. Of course, I really never use that in any of my marketing. So, yeah.
So basically, so what do you do? What's your basic value equation that you lay on the table? Why people want Tom?
Why would people work with me? Yeah, so in the last 30 years, I've dabbled in entrepreneurship. I've had businesses. I've been successful. I've failed at businesses. And in that time, sales was the primary driver of success. And once I figured that out, then my businesses took off. And I was able to then coach other entrepreneurs, specifically in the health and fitness arena, and what I call heart-centered sales. Really define how to have a sales process without feeling like they had to take a shower after a sales call. So that's kind of the effect is conversions is what I really call it, is converting that prospect into an appointment, converting that appointment into an actual sale. So whatever that conversion is, taking that lead all the way to the process where they're paying you for your product or service.
Sounds like you zeroed in on the core element of every business, and a lot of times people miss this. I've in many MBA classes, you ask a simple question: what's the number one reason for business failure? And you'll
Yeah,
get 75 different answers. Not marketing, product fit, the people didn't know, your management wasn't right. And you hit the nail on the head right here. Basically,
yeah,
if you don't have sales, you don't have a business. And
yeah,
basically, you run out of money. That's the number
yeah,
one cause of business failing. You run out of money. That's it. There's no other real
exactly.
reason, quite
Absolutely.
frankly.
Yeah.
Um, and it sounds like when you say the Tom Jacobs effect, what you're talking about is an actual strategy by which you focus on just the revenue generating components of a business,
Yeah,
isolating
absolutely.
the sales component, not saying, oh, that's sales, that's marketing, that's development, that's product service. You say, this is sales, but sales is mining for clients, is bringing people in, is setting it up, it's communicating, it's educating, it's contracting, it's bringing them through, it's onboarding, it's making them,
It's the
maybe
whole
I
thing.
extrapolated a lot more from what you said, but
Oh, that was good. Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, and by the way, that's one of the reasons that you were talking about getting your MBA. That's why I only had one class in my MBA program before I quit, because I was like, this is not real world applicable in terms of entrepreneurship for the MBA program that I had done. So I quickly
yes,
pivoted from that.
for me, I at a young age was a venture funded CEO on Wall Street and with lots of employees and great clients and people loved me and everything like that. And then the market changed and I was tarred and feathered and I was the reason for everyone's demise and I was the villain and everything. And then
Yeah.
when it was all done, I was the last man standing and had to rebirth from the ash can. Um,
Oh wow.
I commonly return to look at that moment as a PhD in business. And if you've ever walked into a white glove law firm with 30 lawyers all getting paid too much, and you know you're the center of attention, let me tell you, you're learning a lot more than you'll ever learn sitting in a class by some lecture.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Dr.
think you
James.
totally get that. So here, we'll go back to the beginning here. You say
Yeah.
you're a theater major. You've been in
Yeah.
live theater. Is what drew you to that, and what does that mean?
Yeah, so in school, I wasn't very good at math, so I was looking for degrees that didn't require a lot of math. but I knew that I wanted to go into business and do entrepreneurship. So I went into theater management as a degree, and as part of that degree, then there was acting, and stage production and all that. And through that process, of course, I haven't done anything in theater in 30 years, but that education that I received has done very well for me in the last 10 years in terms of helping me do presentations better that are more like performances than a presentation. So yeah, exactly, in storytelling, absolutely. So, and that ties nicely into sales too. And I think a lot of salespeople forget the power of being able to tell a really good story, either about themselves and why they're passionate about what they're selling, or about a consumer or a past customer that had great success with their product or service. And having that skill set of being able to effectively tell a story that ultimately persuades somebody to purchase is a skill that's not taught very often.
No, not at all. And I would have had a theater degree at my school at the University of Houston had I not had a business to run because I had to run a business. I couldn't run a show, and therefore I ended up with a marketing degree, communications
Nice.
degree. Um, Tell us, you speak about telling a story. What are some of the components of a story that are necessary that make it captivating that anyone listening could use in their next business meeting or their next HR onboarding or the next class they're teaching or what small elements could they just kind of integrate to make the presentation more interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. So I use the hero's journey framework, and that's public information, and you can look up what the hero's journey is, and they have lots of diagrams that it can be confusing. So I
Well, no,
break
it
it down
doesn't
in
go by it. A
yeah.
dozen things will pop out that are based on it, and it'll make a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the first thing is what's the problem, right? So what's the inciting moment is what the hero's journey says. So what I always talk about is that do or die moment where you had to make a decision. And that is actually where you start the story. And then you back it up with what happened to get you to that point where you had to make a decision of a do or die situation. And then along the way, you have people that help you, and I say people or things or thoughts that help you. So there's a guide that takes you to the promised land. And then there's also villains that try to keep you from getting there. And again, those villains can be people, they can be, thoughts, they can be other, things
I
other
keep
than just
thinking about
people.
Shrek when, as you say it, donkey's the guide. Go
Right.
ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Or even Star Wars is the classic example too, where Yoda is the guide. And then you have, what happens at the end. Once that guide has helped you and once you've, overcome or not overcome that villain trying to stop you, then what's the learning? Like how is life different now that you've achieved that? And so when you're telling a story about a client, you talk about what the problem was that they came to you for, what led up to having that problem, and then what you did to help them. You're the guide in that story. And when you tell it appropriately like that, then whoever's listening to that story sees you as the guide, themselves as the hero, and then automatically just go, oh, well, you can help me do this same thing.
That's good positioning. Position yourself as the guide, the audience as the hero. You present the problem and then present the what led up to the problem and then the solution. And it's the way it's digested in such a way. That is a good
Yeah.
structure, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's a
In
hero's journey. I didn't invent it, but yeah. It's
and on our end, what we've kind of done in our my presentation environment is a similar type of thing, but we say there's emotional slides and logical slides, and you
good.
start with the emotion so that you can capture the person on your side, and then they will see the logic that builds into the decision they've already made on that very first slide.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I'll give an example, even though I'm interviewing here.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
Early in my career, we were doing the presentations for NBC Olympics, selling the advertising. They had just spent $3 billion to air the Olympics for 5 years, and it seemed like a lot of money at the time. Now it seems like a joke. But
Right.
um, and they wanted to, and they're like, what's the difference between $100 million sponsorship and a $500 million sponsorship? The numbers are the same. The same numbers are watching it. They said,
Yep.
well, give them the Muhammad Ali video in the beginning. They take Muhammad Ali shaking, lighting the torch in Atlanta, and it's such a moving, compelling audience movement that by the time they finish that, their audience is looking there, and these are the potential Coca-Cola or Pepsi or sponsorship, and they're realizing, wow, this is a cultural moment. This isn't just 10 million eyes watching an event one day and my logo is going to be there, but this is something that moves people, that inspires people, that lives much longer than what's going on. Once they've got that, they'll use those numbers to justify the 500 million. When just before that, they could have sent an invoice with, we had, a million people watching, that's 2 million eyes, and we charge 8 cents an eye, and your bill is X amount.
Right.
And,
Yeah, no, that's so good.
and on a simple note, we try to help companies identify the emotional slide versus the logical slide. And I guess that's the big challenge you brought up in the beginning. That emotional side sets that up. And just for today, just to help people out, I say, listen, if you can make a meme for what you're talking about and make that your first slide, put it up there. Let people laugh. Let people talk about it. Let people debate it. The rest of your slides are going to flow. And that seems to help. I mean, 5 years ago, I don't know if I knew what the word meme was. I thought it was something in a recipe book.
Yeah. Well, the old saying in sales, if you make them cry, you make them laugh, you're going to make the sale.
Yeah, basically, if you're not moving someone emotionally, you don't do anything. You're in the middle of it, you're boring, and no one really cares. If you're going to be on either extreme, I think we were discussing this earlier, you're going to be active, emotional. People will fall in love with you. They won't take you as just a normal thing. It's either they love you or hate you. Either way, you're important to them, and you earn their mind share. If you don't earn their mind share, they forget about you and you're yesterday. And that's kind of the worst thing today. I think all of these social media places are built on earning mind share. Instagram is just a thirst trap for people putting it out there to say, look at me, I'm special, I'm special. And if everyone's special, then no one's special. And it doesn't make a difference. And that's kind of what we're getting to at this point. It's almost a struggle to be remembered and earn mind share. And what we're talking about in presentation, communication, storytelling is so critical to that. I mean, the best stories in the world are actually put down from generation to generation to generation. And if you've told your story well, then it's going to be viral. The most viral thing are stories that have been turned down from generation to generation. We just accelerated it with technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of got off track there a little bit. I understand presentations, and they mean a lot to me. It's what I do.
Yeah, yes.
To put it mildly, my book is Presentation Hell.
Right. Yeah, I saw that before, and I was like, that's a great name. Yeah.
Well, it's a career is what it's been. It's accurate. But what it is if you've actually lived through components that, like you said, good and bad, you don't know what a beautiful day is if you haven't lived through a storm.
Absolutely.
Tell me one of your worst presentations that you've seen. Because you brought it up.
One that I did, so it was one of the first sell from the stage experiences that I had. So I was working for a marketing or a business mentoring company, and I was selling a sales system for fitness professionals. And so I was in an auditorium with 60 prospective buyers in the room, and I had an hour. And so I laid out, I was going through the 7 steps to selling and how they needed to have all these scripts, and I did a great presentation. I taught everything, and I got to the end, and I said, and here's the order form. I pass out 60 order forms to the group, and I said, just fill in your details, give me your credit card and $2,000, and this program is all yours, and you're going to be awesome at sales. And 0 people bought on that day. 0, not even 1 person. And I went back through, and I was like, what happened? And it's the typical mistake that most presenters will do when they try to move from just presenting an idea to presenting an idea with the idea of selling a product or service, or with the motivation to actually sell. And the problem was I was teaching. I was teaching too much.
You're not selling. You were not convincing. You were trying to force feed education.
Absolutely. And whenever you're either teaching or you're coaching or you're solving the problem, you're not making a sale. And so I went back, I redid it, I got some coaching as well, and the next week I had a smaller event, had 10 people, 10 buyers in the room, and at that event I sold all 10. 100% close rate, just from making small tweaks where I stopped teaching and I started showing people what they needed to do, and then I sold them how to do it at the end.
Let's be more specific. What
Yeah.
were the exact actions that didn't work, and the exact tweak that you did that changed the reception of your message?
Yeah. So the primary thing was I was spending way too much time like on each element, the typical teaching, right? So, the first rapport building, let's just use that as an example. So rapport building, how do you do rapport building? And I went through different scenarios on how to do rapport building. Well, I was boring, but I was also giving them everything that they needed. And so at the end of the hour-long presentation, most people were like, oh, I got everything I needed. I could use everything that he just taught me and be successful at sales. And actually, that did them all a very bad service, because after an hour, they're not going to be good at
They didn't
sales.
learn it. They just heard it. They felt they did.
Yeah, yeah, they tasted it, but
Okay.
they felt like they could.
So
Well,
you gave them too much information. You felt like you're there. Let me show you. This is so good. How can you not see it? It's incredible.
exactly. And they did. They loved it, but they didn't
But
buy it because they got everything. Yeah.
okay. So
And so,
basically, why buy the cow if you're getting the milk for free?
yeah, that's right. Right.
The perception.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then on the flip side of that, what I did at the next presentation was I focused on what the problems were that most people faced and gave them an overview of what they needed to do to improve. But I didn't tell them how to do it, because that was the program. The program lays out all the scripting, everything step by step, and you study it for 6 weeks, and then you're really good at sales. But when I was teaching it, they thought, "Oh, I got this everything." But then when I started to show what they needed to accomplish, but I didn't give them everything, they're like, "Oh, this is great. I really need this." And they all bought because they knew that they needed it.
It sounds like the first time you told them how to do it. The,
Absolutely.
the second time, you demonstrated what they needed to do, and then they bought how to do it.
Absolutely.
Because you jumped the gun, it didn't capture their imagination where they were felt they needed more. You didn't set the stage, so to speak, for the next act to come up that you're warmed up for, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Exactly.
and for everyone listening, humans need the emotional progression of these type of relationships. You don't just sit down and become, pardon the term, you don't just sit down and become intimate with someone mentally or whatever, or physically, in a split minute. It
Right.
takes a progression of, hi, I know who you are, let's see this. Oh, you like sushi too, we enjoy that. Gee whiz, I didn't know our cousins went to school together and studied in the same book, let's do that. And it takes all that progression for humans to feel comfortable with it. I mean, we all pretend we're not animals. And if you
Right.
think of meeting a new dog, you don't walk up and go, "Oh, I love you," and hug you. It's going to pull away. But if
Right.
that's your dog and you've pet them 150 times and that's the way you snuggle, they will jump on your shoulder and love you right off the bat.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just
100%.
mammals. We're not too far from each other. It's, we've got a lot of the similar type of things. And
Yep.
one of the other things that I was just going to touch base is storytelling is also communications.
Hmm.
people find that there's presentations and they just force you down a road. Then there's storytelling that is entertaining. It lets you sit back and absorb it, and because you entertain it and know it better. But the next step is, did it really educate you, change your mindset, give added value equation? And I think that's where you're talking about the sale happens.
Yep, absolutely. So I always like to combine a story and a teaching moment, because that story can lead nicely into a teaching moment where now you're relating the story that you just told to how to now implement that in your own business, whether that's a sales process or some other process. But it's the combination of the two that create that bridge, and then keeps it that infotainment is I like that word, infotainment, because you're giving them great information, but you're entertaining them at the same time. And that back and forth between the teaching moments and the storytelling, just lights up every part of the person's brain, because now they're, on the emotional side, they're on the logic side, and at the end of the hour long or 5 hour long, workshop, you're going to have a good amount of sales.
Ironically, what you just said is I would say, one of the most classic things of human communication through the generations. Think of your grandfather telling you a story because they want you to learn and get a teaching moment from that story, so you don't have to go through the pain that your grandfather went through, because they want to give a piece of you down to the next generation so you can be better. That's really what you're saying. That's classic storytelling is bringing it all the way through.
Yeah. And people are going to remember the story a lot more than they're going to remember facts and figures and a boring slide that's has 100 words
They're
on
going
it.
to remember the story and the emotional connection that happened. Because they remember the emotion, the teaching moment will be put up in lights for everyone to see.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to look at it. And I'm just going to repeat some of the things that we said here. Is one, there's a presentation. I'm going through slides where, The next one is
Just by PowerPoint.
yeah. The next moment, you're actually telling a story. You're capturing. You're using emotion. You're capturing a moment. You're creating the problem. Then you're telling the what you can do with it, and then you want to learn about the how. You're not just telling them. It's actual storytelling and entertaining. From that, the next stage in the higher level, I think this is more of a hierarchy thing. The higher level is actually teaching the moment from the story. What is the theme? What is the theme? You want me to buy something? Is the theme don't go into the woods late at night without proper precautions or whatever? Is the theme don't drive 200 miles an hour? Is that, you know what I mean? Like, there's usually a theme in the thing. Don't go swimming in Massachusetts if Jaws movie's on. You know what I mean? Right. There was a theme with that. Don't go in the water late at night because you're going to get eaten by a shark. I mean, you learn things by it, and it doesn't go away. I think that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. You think about it, any of the best movies out there, people remember those a lot more than what they ate for breakfast in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, well, actually, we will go right to the movies there, and this is exactly what you said, and we can look at almost every TV show starts this way. They all start with some life-changing moment. If you look at Friends, what was it? The first episode, Rachel walked in the door because she got left at the altar, or she couldn't go to the altar and walked away, and everyone came together. Oh, my God. From that started the whole show. Same exact thing for Cheers. The waitress came in. She was left at the altar. Same exact thing. I'm going to date myself, but like Private Benjamin was, a very, protected girl who was brought up as a debutante, suddenly was in boot camp. Big change of life. Everyone hits the change of life. Harry Potter gets the change of life. It happened in the beginning when his thing was done, and then when they found him 11 years on, they brought him back. Big change of life, and things happen. It happens with just about all of them. And if you want to capture someone's human emotion and their imagination, catch them at the change of life. I want to know the moment that you almost died. How did it change your life? I want to know the moment when you won the Super Bowl. How did that change your life? I want to know the moment you were kicked out of your house and suddenly looked in the mirror and said, "Oh my God, I'm on the street." And what did you do? How did that change your life? It's those things that people look for. And if we bring it to presentations, and you've brought this up, is that these critical moments capture emotion, they capture movement, and they capture meaning. And you understand this. I mean, you go back to the hero's tale, is all about those. Every single stage is a moment, a learning moment. Actually, I'll keep on ranting. The Bible is written in an entire bunch of anecdotes where each one of them is scheduled to be a learning moment, and there's a theme and a basic morality and whatever is being put forth. And the reason why is because those stories were told through generations, and then eventually were able to be written down. I really don't believe one person sat down and wrote the whole thing. A lot of people collaborated, and their stories through, I have a story from my grandparents that I retell a little differently than they told me. But I'm trying to get the same message over there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the
Tom.
story's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's totally. Tell me a little bit about Houston. When did you arrive in Houston? We're going to go back to just a little, if that's all right, because I lived there a few years and I thought there's some commonality.
Yeah, yeah. No, I landed there in May of '99, and then I moved to Taiwan now in 2020. So does that make it about 21 years? Why Taiwan? So that was an accident. So
Big
March,
movie, change of life event. Let's tell the story.
yeah. So does everybody remember what happened in March of 2020?
Yes, I was there. It was
Yeah.
March 13th, Friday 13th. I
Yeah.
stood in front of the pond at the bottom of Central Park, wondering where all the ducks went.
Yeah. So and I was living in the Philippines, and I was on my way back to the U.S. and I was on the last flight out of Cebu, Philippines, before they shut the airports down on the 15th of March. I arrived into Taiwan for a 2-day layover. They closed their borders on the 17th of March, and I was here. I would have gotten back to the U.S., but everything was getting canceled. And I was just looking around. And I was like, I'm on an island with like 23 million people, and they just shut the borders. I think I'll stay here. And so I had my 2 bags and a laptop. That's all you need. So and that 2-day layover turned into 3 years now. I absolutely love it here. It's great. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown away. I think most lives have changed during COVID in many ways.
Very much so.
We were up in New York City, and we're now in Tampa.
Yeah.
And just so many things changed so incredibly fast. I mean, I can't even speak about it. It's way
Yeah,
too
yeah.
much.
Yes. So much.
All right. You sold your business. You talk about entrepreneurship in your background and stuff. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
For me, it means freedom. So freedom to do what you want, when you want, how you want to do it. And that comes with a price with anything, in my belief anyway. Everything comes with a price. Because as an entrepreneur, you have to weather those roller coaster rides up and down. I was lucky enough, though, to ride that roller coaster of owning a fitness center for 10 years. And by the end of the 10 years, I was like, you know what? I think I could go and do something else. I've done this enough. So I sold it, and the new owners are still operating it to this day. So,
Well, that's excellent. The fitness
yeah.
category is continually growing as us young individuals get to grow much older than our great grandparents ever had the luxury of doing. It requires maintaining our physical self a lot better if you want to participate in society when you become 70, 80, 90. Who knows? At this
Of
point,
course.
I might be able to live to buck 20, buck 30. I don't know if it's worthwhile, but it's not far fetched. Because,
Yeah.
like, when I was born, people were not living in bulk to 90 years old like they are. They
Yeah.
were, 70s was 65. You were stopping working and you were on your way.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is sad. But
So,
mm,
well, hey, it's what it was. Here, I'll
Yeah,
give you
yeah,
perspective. You want real perspective?
yeah, please.
Archie Bunker was 43 years old.
Really?
Think about it. Little girl had her baby. She was 19, and Archie and Edith got married right after World War II, and he was 20 years old. So little
Huh.
girl was 19, and then Archie and Edith were like 20. That makes them early 40s. Going back that far, that's what grandparents and retirement age was. I'm well past that now. I mean,
Huh.
it's not even, you know what I mean? I can't even think that like just the structure and where it was, the opportunities that are given to our generation that's never been given to any generation before us, we should really appreciate them. A lot of us
Yeah,
bitch and moan about it, but quite frankly, I think it's awesome. I get
yeah,
to live an incredible life that I don't think, in the past 20,000 years, we're in the 1% that's really shit. I could have 50 pounds of sushi delivered right now if I wanted. Right? That's
yeah,
absurd.
absolutely. Yeah,
What happened in a Florida town, on the west coast of Florida? That's just like the things that have happened so quickly. It's just amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it keeps going even faster and faster and faster as
Yeah.
we go
And
through. So
yeah,
it's great.
we're privileged to have this opportunity. I pray that more people keep their eyes open to the beauty that's happening around them and understand it. And we're a part of something really freaking special because we could have been living 500 years ago and really
Mm.
never made it very far and be digging dirt and eating worms and shit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just saying. Well,
Or slaughtering our own meal. Like I wouldn't even know how to, skin a calf if I had to, or a cow.
think about that.
Yeah.
That's a real deal. We're talking when I was a kid, we had chicken coop in the back. There were
Yeah.
animals that got slaughtered and got,
Mm.
that was milk got delivered and eggs came from the backyard. I get it. It sounds absurd nowadays. I think most of the people nowadays wouldn't know how to kind of live if all these things that kiss our ass are around us all the day. I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm warm, the AC goes down a little bit. I look at my phone and can shut the AC lower in my
Yeah,
blanket
exactly.
at 3 a.m. It's warm and to bring it down 5 degrees. I don't. Gee whiz! It's like this is absurd. Think about
Yeah,
it. People actually, when I was young, had to get up and change the channel on their TV.
that's right. Well, my grandpa had a real clicker. Do you
Yeah,
remember? And it actually made the clicking sound.
yeah.
You had one.
It, we called it the clickamajig.
Yeah, right. And they still
And
call remotes clickers.
yeah, and if you dropped your keys in the room of the TV, the channel would change.
To change. That was actually pretty good technology for the time.
Looking at me
So,
like, oh my God, when the dinosaur, are you going to park him in the backyard? You know?
yeah,
And
that's
yes, we
hilarious.
were listening to Led Zeppelin back then. I know, that's why I made
That's
the
awesome.
reference, because they're beautiful. They were brand new at the time. I can remember Zeppelin 2 being released and being excited. All right, Tom, this has been great.
Yeah,
You want to give a
awesome.
little plateau of who you are, where they can find you, what's special, and give yourself an ad.
Yeah, sure. So I have a special gift that I would love to give to your audience as well. So it's a storybook. I call it the Storybook Workbook. So it's how to find the right story in your past and then how to kind of create that hero's journey, the modified hero's journey, to make a really good story. So they can go to my website, tomjackobs.com, TomJackobs.com/storybook, and then they can download that and start creating your own story.
The link is right down there, guys. You can see it. It's right below us right now. Give it a
Awesome.
click and look at it, and that's important. Telling your story of life. That's what'll make you special. That's what your grandchildren will repeat about you.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. I want to thank you for your time today, Tom. This was a
Well,
great
thanks, James.
conversation. Welcome to. I wasn't as
I'm not
hellish
sure I
upon you
understand.
as could have been in another environment. Oh, do we have other people here?
No, I have Siri. I don't know why Siri was talking to me, but
Three butt into the call.
yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on Presentation Hell. We're podcasting here from Tampa, Florida at Embark Studios. I'm James Ontra, and our guest today, Tom Jacobs. It was a wonderful half hour. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, James. Good to see you.